With the passing into the new year, I saw people comment that the previous one went by really fast, and that's something that's pretty common to see every year. As you get older and accumulate more memories, you'll start to see each day as less and less important, and so kind of check out over time, which is my best guess as to why this is so common. Each year seems shorter than the last because, well, you've experienced more. But you know that state you get into when you're waiting for something? Waiting for an appointment to begin, a game to drop, or paycheck to deposit? How time so suddenly seems to slow. That's a state that can be harnessed. When you wake up, look at the date. Take note of the day of the week and how far out you are to something that's important to you, like an upcoming holiday, or your birthday is always a good fallback. I went most of my life without ever trying to acknowledge the day of the week or the time of year, and so my life was a little bit of a vortex that I was just kind of trapped in. That only really let up a year or two ago, and all of my memories of the time before that are just kind of null and void. This kind of thing is going to be very obvious for some, but that's not really who this advice is for. It's for people who, like me, were trapped in depression for a very, very long time with seemingly no light at the end of the tunnel. The mere act of acknowledging what day it is, instead of just letting it take you by surprise, is one of those initial steps that is really vital to getting yourself stabilized. As I'm sure people are intimately familiar with now, living in depression is not exactly enjoyable, or bizarrely even obvious. I was in denial about it for a long time, and even now after I've been on antidepressants for 2 years, I still have lapses some days where I wonder if I'm truly suffering these symptoms or if I've just been making it all up. To combat it, you can't exactly square up fists out looking to kick its ass, because it doesn't really work like that. It's not a one-and-done thing. Depression is more like the very bottom of how you can feel. The ocean floor that's all too easy to sink back into if you don't keep yourself afloat. To keep yourself away from rock bottom, you need routine. Routine gives you something to regularly focus on, a distraction from procrastination and overthinking. But I remember finding the term itself, routine, kind of intimidating at first, which is something that I want to dispel. Routine doesn't always mean a full-day schedule with everything written out in front of you. It's an umbrella term for pretty much anything that you do regularly. There are many, many things that can fall under it, from meticulous calendar plans to hanging out with friends over games in the evening, to getting up in the morning and having a peppermint. I was without routine for a very, very long time, and setting up even the most basic thing to do regularly was incredibly helpful. I can only truly give advice based off what has worked for me, of course. The most stabilizing thing I have ever found is work. Getting a job that forces you to be at the same place at the same time every day sucked, but it made me feel so much better because it taught me the exact skill that I am describing, which is keeping track of time. With me leaving that life behind, I did have to relearn it. It took an embarrassingly long time because it's only after a good habit is gone that you can start to piece together what it was in the first place. What I'm doing right now is the second most stabilizing activity in my experience, which is doing something creative, which, for me, conveniently, is now also work. I know some people really lose their drive for what they do creatively after it becomes work, but I have not felt that at all. It's like the perfect excuse to do what I truly enjoy. But, even though I thoroughly enjoy doing this, it's still hard to get myself started on, and that's thanks to our old friend, aided by some friendly neighborhood disorders. I put off writing this video for about a full week. I also put off making a new secondhand therapy video for months. Why? Dunno. That is the biggest casualty of depression, being able to keep track of yourself. I have written half a dozen concepts for more videos in the series, and put off making any of them for no reason. I suffer hard from the eternal paradox of in the morning going, there's so much time left in the day, followed by in the evening going, there's so little day left. It's all too easy to bully yourself too, because it is genuinely just your fault. But the important distinction is that while it might be your fault, dealing with depression and procrastination is just actually really hard, and struggling with it is completely understandable. No one is going to judge you for it. I'd say that these days it's also just normal. Everyone I know, and I mean everyone, has had at least one depressive bout at some point, and that's just what they've shared. I'm sure they've been to far worse places, just privately. But acknowledging the day in the morning, looking at the clock obsessively, even making a tick out of it, has been instrumental for me. Time will pass you by far less when you're acutely aware of it, just like in those doctor's offices waiting for your appointment. Forcing yourself to be in that state as much as possible is pretty good for one's productivity, because it also makes you pretty aware of all the work or exercise you could be doing. Might as well chip away at it, even if only for a few minutes, I swear.